Dr. Amy Martinez rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the computer screen for the 100th time that night. The coffee in her cup had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. Something was wrong with the deep space radio signals coming from the Vega system, and she could not figure out what it was. The Deep Space Communications Array sat in the middle of the Nevada desert like a giant metal flower. Its massive dishes pointed toward the stars, always listening for signals from space. Amy had worked there for 8 years, and she had never seen anything like this before. Ben Parker, the night shift communications officer, walked over to her desk with a worried look on his face. He was young, maybe 25, with messy brown hair and thick glasses that made his eyes look bigger than they really were. "Dr. Martinez," he said quietly, "the signal is getting stronger. Whatever is sending it, it wants us to hear it really badly." Amy stood up and stretched her back. She was 42 years old and felt every year of it after sitting at her desk for 12 straight hours. Her black hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her white lab coat had coffee stains on it. "Show me the latest reading," she said. Ben led her to the main console where waves of green light danced across multiple screens. The signal was unlike anything in their databases. It was clearly artificial, created by intelligent beings, but it did not match any known Earth technology. "It started 3 days ago as just a whisper," Ben explained. "But look at it now. The signal is so strong it is drowning out everything else from that part of space." Amy felt her heart beat faster. In all her years studying alien communications, she had only worked with old signals from dead civilizations. This was different. This was happening right now. "Have you tried running it through the translation program?" she asked. "I tried everything we have," Ben said. "But this is way more complex than anything we have seen before. The signal has layers, mathematical patterns, sound frequencies, even what looks like emotional content." Amy sat down at the main console and began typing commands. She was one of the best xenolinguists in the world, someone who studied alien languages. If anyone could figure out what the aliens were trying to say, it would be her. Hours passed as Amy worked. She tried different approaches, tested new theories, and slowly began to see patterns in the alien signal. The beings who sent it were smart, very smart. Their language was like a beautiful piece of music mixed with advanced mathematics. Around 4 in the morning, Amy made her first breakthrough. She managed to decode a single word that kept repeating in the signal. The word meant help in the alien language. "Ben," she called out, "come look at this." Ben hurried over, carrying 2 fresh cups of coffee. He sat one down next to Amy and looked at her screen. "I found something," Amy said, pointing at the translated text. "They are asking for help." "Help with what?" Ben asked. "That is what I am trying to figure out," Amy replied. She kept working, and slowly more words became clear. The aliens called themselves the Zephyrians. They lived on planets near the star Vega, about 25 light-years from Earth. As the sun rose over the Nevada desert, Amy had decoded enough of the message to understand its basic meaning. Her hands shook as she read the translation on her screen. The Zephyrians were in trouble. Big trouble. Another alien race called the Krulek Empire was attacking their planets. The Kruleks had already destroyed 12 other alien civilizations in their part of space. Now they were coming for the Zephyrians, but the most shocking part was what the Zephyrians wanted from Earth. They were not asking for weapons or soldiers. They were asking for wisdom and guidance. They had heard stories about humans, about how good they were at solving problems. The Zephyrians wanted advice on how to save their people. Amy printed out the full translation and read it again to make sure she understood it correctly. The Zephyrians thought humans were wise and peaceful. They believed Earth could help them find a way to stop the war without more violence. "Then we need to call Admiral Collins right now," Amy said. Admiral Jake Collins was the head of Earth's Space Defense Command. He was a tough military man in his 50s with gray hair and serious blue eyes. When his phone rang at 6 in the morning, he was already awake and drinking coffee in his kitchen. "Admiral Collins speaking," he answered. "Sir, this is Dr. Martinez at the Deep Space Array. We have received a message from an alien civilization." They are asking for our help. There was silence on the phone for a few seconds. Then Admiral Collins said, I will be there in 2 hours. Do not tell anyone else about this until I arrive. When Admiral Collins arrived at the facility, he brought Lisa Chun with him. Lisa was his chief strategic advisor, a brilliant woman who could analyze any military situation and find the best solution. She had short black hair and always wore dark business suits that made her look very serious. Amy showed them the translated message and explained everything she had learned about the Zephyrians and the Krulix Empire. Admiral Collins read the message 3 times before he spoke. So these Zephyrians are peaceful, and they are being attacked by a warrior race, he said. That is correct, sir, Amy replied. And they are asking us for advice on how to handle the situation, Admiral Collins continued. Yes, sir. They think humans are wise and good at solving problems. Admiral Collins looked at Lisa Chun, and something passed between them that Amy did not understand. The Admiral had a small smile on his face, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a person got when they were thinking about something the other person would not expect. Dr. Martinez, Admiral Collins said, how long do we have before the Krulix Zephyrian space? Amy checked her calculations. Based on the information in their message, maybe 6 months. 6 months, Admiral Collins repeated. That should be enough time. Enough time for what, sir? Amy asked. Admiral Collins stood up and straightened his uniform. Enough time to get our ships ready. If these aliens want help dealing with bullies, we are going to give them exactly what they need. Amy felt confused. Sir, they are asking for wisdom and guidance, not military intervention? Admiral Collins looked at her with those serious blue eyes. Dr. Martinez, when someone asks humans for help against people who are trying to hurt them, we do not send a letter with advice. We send everything we have to make sure the bullies never hurt anyone again. Lisa Chun nodded in agreement. We need to start mobilizing our fleet immediately. As Admiral Collins and Lisa Chun left the facility to return to Space Defense Command, Amy stood in the doorway watching their car drive away across the desert. She had a feeling that the Zephyrians were about to get a very different kind of help than they were expecting. Ben Parker walked up beside her. What do you think is going to happen? He asked. Amy looked up at the morning sky, thinking about the aliens 25 light years away who had asked Earth for wisdom. I think, she said slowly, the galaxy is about to learn something new about humans. Admiral Jake Collins walked into the Global Defense Council meeting room at exactly 8 in the morning. The room was filled with the most important military and political leaders from around the world. Large screens on the walls showed maps and data about the alien message that Dr. Martinez had decoded. Lisa Chun stood at the front of the room with a laser pointer in her hand. She had spent the last 6 hours analyzing every piece of information about the Zephyrians and the Krulix Empire. Her presentation was ready. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Collins said as he took his seat at the head of the long table, we are here to discuss humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization, and they are asking for our help. General Ryan Foster, a large man with a thick mustache and scars on his hands from old battles, leaned forward in his chair. Admiral, I have read the translation. These Zephyrians think we are some kind of wise, peaceful species. They want advice on how to handle a war. Dr. Kate Wilson, the military strategist and anthropologist, opened her tablet and began reading from her notes. She was a thin woman with red hair and green eyes who always spoke very precisely. Based on the information in their message, the Krulix Empire has a standard pattern of attack. They surround a planet, demand surrender, and then either enslave the population or destroy them completely. How many ships are we talking about? Asked Captain Alex Morrison. He was younger than most of the people in the room, only 35, but he had commanded more space battles than anyone else in Earth's fleet. His dark skin was marked with a scar across his left cheek from a training accident years ago. Lisa Chun clicked her laser pointer, and the screen showed a diagram of Krulix ships. Intelligence suggests they have approximately 400 vessels in their main attack fleet. Each ship is roughly twice the size of our largest cruisers. Ambassador Nicole Hayes, representing the diplomatic corps, raised her hand. She was an older woman with silver hair who had spent her entire career trying to prevent wars, not start them. Have we considered that maybe the Zephyrians are right? Maybe we should try to help them negotiate with the Kruleks instead of jumping straight to military action. The room became very quiet. Admiral Collins looked around the table at each person before he spoke. Ambassador Hayes, he said slowly, let me tell you what I heard in that alien message. I heard of peaceful people being terrorized by bullies. I heard about 12 other civilizations that were wiped out because nobody stood up to these Kruleks. And I heard a cry for help from beings who think talking and negotiating will save them. General Foster nodded in agreement. Sir, with respect to the ambassador, we have seen this before in human history. When aggressive empires are allowed to expand without opposition, they just keep taking more territory and killing more people. Doctor. Wilson pulled up another screen showing historical Earth conflicts. The Kruleks pattern matches several aggressive human empires from our past. They respond to strength, not diplomacy. Every species that has tried to negotiate with them has been destroyed or enslaved. Captain Morrison stood up and walked to the large window that looked out over the military base. The Zephyrians asked for our help because they heard humans are good at solving problems, while we are. When someone is trying to hurt innocent people, we solve that problem by stopping them. Permanently. Ambassador Hayes shook her head. Captain, that is exactly the kind of thinking that leads to unnecessary wars. We should at least try to communicate with the Kruleks first. Ma'am, General Foster said, the Kruleks have already communicated. They communicated by destroying 12 civilizations. They communicated by threatening to wipe out the Zephyrians. I think their message is pretty clear. Admiral Collins stood up and activated the main display screen. It showed the current positions of Earth's space fleet scattered across the solar system. Dr. Wilson, what is your assessment of our military capabilities compared to the Kruleks? Dr. Wilson checked her notes again. The Kruleks have superior numbers and larger ships. However, their tactics appear to be very traditional and predictable. They rely on overwhelming force and the fear factor. Human military doctrine emphasizes adaptability, unpredictability, and rapid decision-making. In other words, Captain Morrison said with a slight smile, they fight like machines and we fight like humans. Lisa Chen brought up a new display showing Earth's shipyards. If we start immediate mobilization, we can have our entire fleet ready for departure in 12 weeks. That includes the new ships currently under construction. What new ships? Ambassador Hayes asked. Admiral Collins smiled for the first time that morning. The UES Liberty, UES Defiance, and UES Retribution. Our newest and most advanced warships. They were designed specifically for long-range operations. General Foster laughed. Those names should send a message to anyone who thinks Earth is just going to send a diplomatic note. Dr. Wilson pulled up tactical information about the new ships. Each vessel carries enough firepower to level a small moon. They also have advanced shield technology and faster engines than anything we have built before. How many personnel will this mission require? Admiral Collins asked. Captain Morrison had been doing calculations on his tablet. For a full military response, we would need approximately 50,000 crew members across all ships. That includes Marines for boarding operations and technical specialists. Ambassador Hayes looked shocked. 50,000 people? Admiral, the Zephyrians asked for wisdom and guidance, not an invasion force. Ambassador, Admiral Collins said. Patiently, the Zephyrians asked for help solving their problem. Their problem is that an aggressive empire wants to destroy them. We are going to solve that problem by removing the threat. Lisa Chun brought up a timeline on the screen. Based on the Kruleks movement patterns, they will reach Zephyrian space in approximately 6 months. If we leave Earth in 12 weeks, we will arrive with plenty of time to prepare. General Foster was studying the star charts. The journey will take about 3 months. That gives us time to conduct training exercises and war games during the trip. Dr. Wilson made a note on her tablet. We should also use the journey time to study Krulek's tactics and develop countermeasures. Their predictable approach to warfare could be their weakness. Admiral Collins looked around the room one more time. I want to be very clear about our mission goals. We are not going to negotiate with the Kruleks. We are not going to try to find a compromise. We are going to tell them to leave Zephyrian space immediately, and if they refuse, we are going to make them leave. And if they decide to fight? Ambassador Hayes asked quietly. Captain Morrison answered before the Admiral could speak. Then we will show them why humans have never lost a war when we were fighting to protect innocent people. The Zephyrians wanted to know how humans solve problems, General Foster added. They are about to find out. Admiral Collins closed his tablet and stood up. Ladies and gentlemen, we have work to do. Captain Morrison, I want you to select the best officers for this mission. General Foster, begin mobilizing the Marines. Dr. Wilson, I need complete tactical analysis of Krulek's capabilities. Lisa, coordinate with all the shipyards to accelerate construction schedules. What about diplomatic contact with the Zephyrians? Ambassador Hayes asked. We will send them a message, Admiral Collins replied. We will tell them that help is on the way. We just will not mention exactly what kind of help we are bringing. As the meeting ended and people began filing out of the room, Lisa Chun approached Admiral Collins. Sir, do you think the Zephyrians will be happy with our interpretation of their request? Admiral Collins looked out the window at the ships being prepared in the orbital shipyards above Earth. Lisa, the Zephyrians asked humans for help because they heard we are good at solving problems. In 6 months, they will have no more Krulek's problem. I think they will be very happy with the results, even if our methods surprise them. Outside the building, work had already begun. Ships were being fueled, weapons were being loaded, and soldiers were preparing for humanity's first interstellar war. The Zephyrians had asked for wisdom, but they were going to get something much more effective. Captain Alex Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty and watched Earth grow smaller in the main viewing screen. Behind his ship, the largest fleet in human history followed him toward the stars. 57 warships filled with soldiers, weapons, and the determination to help a species they had never met. The Liberty was beautiful and deadly at the same time. Her hull was dark gray metal that seemed to absorb light, and her weapon systems could destroy a small city in seconds. But to Captain Morrison, she was home. He had spent the last 3 years helping design and build her, and now she was leading humanity to its first interstellar war. Commander Megan Torres walked up beside him and handed him a cup of coffee. She was his executive officer and the best, second in command he could ask for. Megan had studied alien cultures for years, even though nobody thought humans would ever meet any aliens. Now her knowledge was more important than anyone had imagined. Captain, she said, we are receiving the first response message from the Zephyrians. Dr. Martinez's team finished translating it about an hour ago. Captain Morrison took the tablet from her hands and read the message. His eyebrows went up as he read, and then he started to smile. It was not a happy smile. Commander, call a meeting with all department heads in 1 hour. I think we need to discuss this. An hour later, the senior officers of the UES Liberty sat around the conference table in the ship's meeting room. Lieutenant Kyle Roberts, the tactical officer, was a young man with blonde hair who could calculate weapons trajectories in his head faster than most computers. Chief Engineer Sam Davis was older, with gray hair and hands that were always slightly dirty from working on the ship's engines. Captain Morrison activated the wall screen and displayed the Zephyrian message. Ladies and gentlemen, we have heard back from the people we are going to help. Commander Torres began reading the translation. Greetings to the wise humans of Earth. We are grateful that you received our message and are sending advisors to help us find a peaceful solution to our conflict with the Krulek's Empire. We eagerly await the arrival of your philosophers and negotiators. The room became very quiet. Lieutenant Roberts looked confused. Sir, do they think we are sending teachers? That appears to be exactly what they think, Captain Morrison replied. They are expecting a small ship with wise old humans who will sit down with everyone and talk about peace. Chief Davis laughed and shook his head. Well, they are going to be very surprised when 57 warships show up instead. Commander Torres pulled up another screen showing intelligence reports about other alien species in the region. Captain, we have been monitoring communications from several other civilizations near Zephyrian space. They are all talking about the human fleet heading their way. What are they saying? Captain Morrison asked. Most of them seem confused. Apparently, when species in this part of the galaxy ask for help, they usually get diplomatic missions or offers to mediate disputes. Nobody sends an entire military fleet. Lieutenant Roberts was studying the tactical displays. Sir, we have also detected long-range scans from what appears to be Krulek ships. They know we are coming. Good, Captain Morrison said. I want them to know we are coming. What is their response? Commander Torres brought up another translated message, this one intercepted from Krulek's communications. They are calling us. Primitive reinforcements and saying that Earth technology is probably hundreds of years behind galactic standards. Chief Davis grinned. I love it when enemies underestimate us. It makes the job so much easier. Captain Morrison stood up and walked to the window that looked out at the other ships in the fleet. The U's Defiance and UES Retribution were visible. In the distance, their weapon systems clearly showing on their hulls. The Kruleks think we are bringing primitive technology to help a species that has already lost. They have no idea what human military engineering can do. 3 weeks into the journey, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrians sent another message. But this time they asked if they could speak directly to the humans using real-time communication. Dr. Martinez had figured out how to establish a video link across the vast distance of space. Captain Morrison, Commander Torres, and Lieutenant Roberts sat in the communications room as the alien face appeared on their screen for the first time. The Zephyrian looked somewhat like a tall, thin human, but with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. The alien's name was Veltar, and he was some kind of ambassador. Greetings, humans of the ship Liberty, Veltar said in careful English. His voice was soft and musical. We are honored to speak with the representatives of your wise species. Greetings. Ambassador Veltar, Captain Morrison replied. We are honored to help you with your problem. Yes, the Krulek situation is very troubling, Veltar said. We hope your philosophers can help us understand how to negotiate with them. Perhaps there is some way to convince them that war is not necessary. Captain Morrison and Commander Torres looked at each other. Captain Morrison decided to be direct. Ambassador, we are not philosophers, we are soldiers, and we are not coming to negotiate with the Kruleks. Veltar's large black eyes became even larger. Soldiers, but your message said you were sending help. We assumed that meant diplomatic assistance. We are sending help, Captain Morrison said. We are going to help you by removing the Krulek's threat. Removing? Veltar looked confused. Do you mean relocating them to a different area of space? Lieutenant Roberts could not help himself. He leaned forward and said, Sir, I think he means we are going to relocate them to the afterlife. Commander Torres gave Roberts a sharp look to make him be quiet. She turned back to the screen. Ambassador Veltar, in human culture, when someone asks for help against aggressors, we provide military assistance to eliminate the threat. Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was shaking. Military assistance? You mean fighting? Violence? Yes, Captain Morrison said simply. We are bringing 57 warships and 50,000 soldiers to destroy the Krulek's fleet. The alien ambassador looked like he might faint. But we asked for wisdom and guidance. We asked for help finding a peaceful solution. Ambassador, Captain Morrison said gently, sometimes the most peaceful solution is to stop the people who are causing all the violence. Veltar put his hands over his face. Our leaders believe that humans were a peaceful, wise species. We thought you would help us negotiate. Commander Torres tried to explain. Ambassador, we are helping you. We are going to make sure the Kruleks never threaten your people again. By destroying them? Veltar asked. If they choose to fight instead of leaving your space, then yes. Captain Morrison replied. Veltar was quiet again for a very long time. Finally, he looked back at the screen. Captain Morrison, may I ask you something? Of course. Your species wages war as naturally as we pursue mathematics, do you not? Captain Morrison thought about the question. Around him, the ship hummed with the sounds of weapons being maintained, soldiers training for combat, and engines pushing them toward battle. Ambassador, we do not enjoy war. But when innocent people are threatened by bullies, we do what is necessary to protect them. And what is necessary? Veltar asked quietly. Whatever it takes, Captain Morrison answered. After the communication ended, Commander Torres turned to Captain Morrison. Sir, I think we may have misunderstood what they wanted from us. Captain Morrison looked out at the stars ahead of them, where somewhere the Krulix Empire was preparing to destroy another peaceful civilization. Commander, I think we understood perfectly. They have a problem, and they asked us to solve it. The fact that our solution is different from what they expected does not change anything. But, sir, what if they do not want our kind of help? Captain Morrison smiled, and this time it was a gentle smile. Commander, after we finish dealing with the Krulix, I think they will be very grateful for our kind of help. They just do not know it yet. In space around them, the human fleet continued its journey toward a war that one side was expecting and the other side was about to learn was coming. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Zephyrian space like a pack of wolves entering a sheep pasture. Admiral Jake Collins stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the tactical displays fill with information about the enemy fleet. The Krulix Empire had 400 ships, arranged in perfect formation around the main Zephyrian planet. Their vessels were massive, each one twice the size of the largest human ship, and they moved in precise patterns like dancers following ancient steps. Admiral, called out Lieutenant Kyle Roberts from his position at the tactical station, we are being scanned by the Krulix fleet. They appear to be confused by our arrival. Admiral Collins smiled. The Krulix had expected maybe 1 or 2 ships carrying diplomats. Instead, they were looking at 57 human warships armed to the teeth and ready for battle. Captain Lauren Mitchell's voice came through the communication system from her fighter wing command ship. She was leading 200 of humanity's best pilots in small, fast attack ships. Admiral, my birds are ready to fly. Just give us a target. Hold position for now, Captain, Admiral Collins replied. Let us see if the Krulix want to talk first. Colonel. Chris Anderson was in the Marine Bay of the UES Retribution, preparing his soldiers for boarding operations. He was a big man with scars on his arms and a reputation for never losing a fight. His Marines were the best close combat fighters humanity had ever trained. The Zephyrian Defense Coordinator, a female alien named Ishka, contacted the human fleet from the planet below. Her voice was shaking with fear and amazement. Admiral Collins, she said, we cannot believe you brought so many ships. The Krulix outnumber you 7-1. Coordinator Ishka? Admiral Collins replied calmly. Sometimes numbers do not matter as much as people think they do. Before Ishka could respond, a new voice filled the communication channels. It was deep and harsh, speaking Galactic Standard language with the accent of a predator. This is War Commander Thakmer of the Krulix Empire, the voice announced. Human vessels, you are interfering with a legitimate military operation? Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Admiral Collins activated the fleet-wide communication system so all his ships could hear his response. War Commander Thakmer, this is Admiral Collins of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are threatening our friends. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw all your forces from Zephyrian space. There was silence for several seconds. Then Thakmer began to laugh, a sound like grinding metal. Admiral Collins, you have 57 primitive ships against my 400 advanced warships. I will give you 1 chance to surrender. Bring your ships to my flagship, and I will allow your crews to serve as slaves instead of being destroyed. Counter-offer, Admiral Collins said in a voice that could freeze water. You leave now, or we remove you from this system permanently. Thakmer's laughter stopped. You dare to threaten the Krulix Empire? We have conquered 12 civilizations. We are masters of galactic warfare. You have conquered 12 civilizations that follow galactic warfare rules, Admiral Collins said. We do not. On the main screen, the Krulix fleet began moving into what appeared to be a standard battle formation. Their ships spread out in organized lines, preparing for the kind of formal, ritualized combat that was normal in their part of. The Galaxy. Commander Miguel Torres, now serving as Admiral Collins' strategic advisor, studied the enemy formation. Sir, they are positioning themselves for traditional galactic warfare. Long-range weapons exchanges, formal challenges, probably expect us to respond with similar formations. What are our orders, Admiral? Asked Captain Alex Morrison from the UES Liberty. Admiral Collins looked at the enemy fleet arranging itself in neat, predictable patterns. All ships, attack formation Alpha 7. Captain Mitchell, release your fighters. Colonel Anderson, prepare for boarding operations. Sir, Commander Torres said quietly, the Krulix are trying to establish formal battle protocols. They are sending requests for combat rules and engagement procedures. Tell them we have received their message, Admiral Collins said. Then ignore all further communications. The human fleet suddenly exploded into motion. Instead of forming neat lines like the Krulix expected, the human ships scattered in all directions. Some dove below the galactic plane, others climbed above it, and still others charged straight at the enemy formation. War. Commander Thakmer watched his tactical screens with growing confusion. What are the humans doing? This is not proper battle formation. His weapons officer, a younger Krulix named Velkrim, was staring at his instruments. Sir, their ships are not following any recognized pattern. Some are moving to attack positions we did not know were possible. The first human attack came from Captain Mitchell's fighters. 200 small ships screaming in from 12 different directions at speeds that should have been impossible. The Krulix point defense systems were designed to stop attacks from the front or sides, not from above, below, and behind all at the same time. Impossible, Thakmer muttered as his outer ships began taking damage. Fighter craft cannot attack from those angles. Sir, Velkrim said, his voice rising in panic, some of the human fighters are performing ramming attacks. They are flying their ships directly into our vessels. Thakmer could not believe what he was hearing. That is suicide. No pilot would destroy his own ship on purpose. But the humans were doing exactly that. When their weapons were not enough to penetrate Krulix shields, the human pilots simply flew their ships into the enemy vessels like guided missiles. Each fighter that died this way took out weapon systems, engines, or shield generators on the much larger Krulix ships. Captain, Morrison's voice filled the communication channels. All ships boarding pattern Delta. Marines, you are cleared for hostile vessel insertion. Colonel Anderson and his Marines were already loading into assault pods, small armored ships designed to punch through enemy hulls and deliver soldiers directly inside enemy vessels. This was another thing that the Krulix had never seen before. Sir, Velkrim reported to Thakmer, the humans are launching boarding pods at our ships while we are still fighting. That is impossible, Thakmer said. No species boards enemy vessels during active combat. It is too dangerous. But the humans were doing it anyway. Colonel Anderson's Marines smashed through the hull of a Krulix cruiser and began fighting their way to the bridge while the ship was still shooting at other human vessels. The Krulix crew had never trained for fighting inside their own ships. During space battles, Admiral Collins watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. The Krulix fleet was beginning to fall apart as their neat formations collapsed under the chaos of human tactics. Admiral, Commander Torres reported, the enemy is requesting a ceasefire to discuss terms. Tell them we do not negotiate during combat, Admiral Collins replied. They can surrender or they can continue fighting. War Commander Thakmer's flagship was now surrounded by human ships that were attacking from angles his weapons could not reach. His shield generators were failing under the constant assault, and he could hear explosions echoing through his ship as human Marines fought in the corridors below. This is not how galactic warfare works, he said to himself, watching his fleet being torn apart by enemies who refused to follow any of the accepted rules of combat. Zephyrian. Defense Coordinator Ishka watched the battle from her command center. On the planet below, she had never seen anything like it. The humans fought like wild animals, but with the precision and technology of an advanced civilization. "By the stars," she whispered, "what kind of species did we ask for help?" The battle was becoming a rout as more Krulek ships fell to human tactics they had never encountered before. War Commander Thakmor realized that his empire's reputation for invincibility was about to end in this remote star system. Destroyed by a species that everyone had dismissed as primitive, the galaxy was about to learn a new lesson about what happened when humans decided to help their friends. War Commander Thakmor stood in the ruins of his flagship's bridge and stared at the human admiral on his communication screen. Half of his fleet was destroyed, and the other half was badly damaged. In 40 years of conquest, he had never experienced anything like this defeat. "Admiral Collins," Thakmor said, his voice no longer filled with arrogance, "I request terms for surrender." Admiral Jake Collins looked at the Krulek's commander with cold blue eyes. "The terms are simple, War Commander. You withdraw all Krulek's forces from this entire galactic sector immediately. You do not come back, ever." "The entire sector?" Thakmor asked. "But we have territorial claims and established colonies." "Not anymore," Admiral Collins replied. "You have 24 hours to begin withdrawal. Any Krulek ship found in this region after that will be destroyed without warning." Thakmor felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Fear. These humans did not negotiate. They did not show mercy to defeated enemies, and they certainly did not follow any of the accepted rules of galactic warfare. "What?" "About our colonies and military bases?" he asked. Captain Alex Morrison's voice came through the communication system from the UES Liberty. "War Commander, you should have thought about that before you decided to threaten innocent people. You have 24 hours. The communication ended, leaving Thakmor alone with the destruction of his fleet and the end of the Krulek's empire's expansion into this part of the galaxy on the planet below. Zephyrian Defense Coordinator Ishka was having a very different conversation with her government leaders. The main Zephyrian leader, Prime Kodhan, was a tall, elegant being with silver skin who had ruled his people for over a century. "Coordinator Ishka," Prime Kodhan said, "the humans have saved our civilization, but their methods... I have never seen such violence." Ishka nodded sadly. "Prime, they destroyed more ships in 6 hours than our entire fleet could have destroyed in 6 years. But the way they fought, it was like watching wild animals with advanced technology." "The human admiral is requesting permission to land on our planet," Prime Kodhan said. "He wants to discuss establishing a permanent human presence in our system." "A permanent presence?" Ishka looked worried. "Prime, what if they decide we are a threat someday?" Prime Kodhan was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Coordinator, I think we have learned something important today. When humans call someone a friend, they will destroy anyone who tries to hurt that friend. I believe we are safer as their allies than their enemies." 3 days later, Admiral Collins stood in the beautiful crystal halls of the Zephyrian capital city. The architecture was peaceful and artistic, everything designed to promote harmony and calm thinking. It was the complete opposite of a human military base. Dr. Amy Martinez had arrived on one of the support ships, and she was helping translate the more complex parts of the conversation between humans and Zephyrians. She looked around at the alien art and buildings and wondered what the Zephyrians thought of the humans who had just saved them. "Admiral Collins," Prime Kodhan said through the translation device, "we are grateful for your help, but we must ask, is this how humans always solve problems?" Admiral Collins thought about the question carefully. Around him, his officers stood in their military uniforms, looking very out of place in the peaceful alien environment. "Prime Kodhan," Admiral Collins said, "we solve problems in the way that works best. Sometimes that means talking. Sometimes that means fighting. The Krulaks were not the kind of enemy you could talk to. But that the violence, Prime Kotan said quietly. Your soldiers destroyed their ships while still inside them. Your pilots flew their own vessels into enemy vessels. We have never seen such methods. Commander Megan Torres, who had studied alien cultures, stepped forward. Prime in human history. When innocent people are threatened by those who will not listen to reason, we have learned that sometimes violence is the only language aggressors understand. Dr. Amy Martinez was translating not just the words, but also trying to explain human culture to beings who had lived their entire civilization without war. It was not easy. The important thing, Admiral Collins added, is that the Krulaks are gone and they will not come back. Your people are safe, Prime Kotan nodded slowly. Yes, Admiral, our people are safe and we are grateful. But I think we understand now why the galaxy fears your species as much as they might respect you. 2 weeks later, Captain Matt Rodriguez was patrolling the Zephyrian system in his ship, the UES Guardian. He was one of the younger captains chosen to lead the new joint human-alien patrol fleet. His job was to make sure no other aggressive species decided to test the humans. Resolved. Captain Rodriguez received a message from the Galactic Council, a group of alien civilizations that governed this part of space. They wanted to meet with human representatives to discuss membership in their organization. Rodriguez to Admiral Collins, he said into his communication system. Sir, the Galactic Council wants to talk to us. Admiral Collins was on Earth, reporting to the Global Defense Council about the mission's success. What do they want, Captain? They want to offer humanity membership in the Galactic Council, sir. Apparently, our victory over the Krulaks has gotten everyone's attention, Admiral Collins smiled. I bet it has. What else are they saying? Well, sir, Captain Rodriguez said, looking at his intelligence reports, 3 other aggressive species in this part of the galaxy have suddenly decided to stop their expansion plans. And several peaceful civilizations are asking if humans might be interested in establishing defense agreements. Admiral Collins was not surprised. Word traveled fast in space, and the story of how humans had interpreted a request for help was spreading throughout the galaxy. Ambassador Jenna Walsh, humanity's first galactic diplomat, was preparing for her first meeting with the Galactic Council. She was a smart woman who had spent years studying alien cultures, but she knew this was going to be a difficult job. Ambassador Walsh, Admiral Collins said during their final briefing, remember that we did not ask to become the Galactic Police Force, but if that is what happens, we will do the job right. Admiral, Ambassador Walsh replied, what do I tell them about human intentions in this region of space? Tell them the truth, Admiral Collins said. We came here to help a friend, and we will help any other friends who need us. We do not want to conquer anyone, but we will not allow bullies to hurt innocent people. 6 months later, Dr. Amy Martinez was back at the Deep Space Communications Array in Nevada. The facility was much busier now, with new equipment to handle communications with multiple alien civilizations. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Ben Parker, the communications officer who had first detected the Zephyrian signal, walked over to her desk with a familiar, worried look on his face. Dr. Martinez, he said, we are receiving another signal. This time it is from the Altair system. Amy looked up from her work. What are they saying, Ben? It is another species asking for help. They call themselves the Andromedans, and they are being threatened by something called the Void Hunters. Amy stood up and stretched, thinking about how much had changed since the first alien message. Ben, have you contacted Admiral Collins yet? Yes, ma'am. He said to tell you that Task Force Liberation is refueling and will be ready to depart in 2 weeks. Amy smiled as she looked out the window at the desert. Somewhere in space, another peaceful species was crying for help, and they were about to learn what happened when humans decided to provide assistance. Ben, she said, I think the galaxy is starting to understand something about humans. What is that, Dr. Martinez? When someone asks us for help, Amy said, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky, we do not send them a book about peaceful negotiation. We send them a solution to their problem. In space above Earth, the ships of humanity's growing, Galactic Fleet prepared for their next mission to help those who could not help themselves. The universe had called for help, and humanity had answered the only way they knew how: